This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. North Korea is warning of a nuclear attack against the United States if provoked. It's not the first time the communist nation has made an extreme threat against this country, but it takes on new added meaning in the context of the North's recent missile and nuclear weapons testing. An American naval carrier strike group is on the way to the region tonight, and after last week's missile strike against Syria, the possibility of military action by the new American president seems more realistic tonight. Correspondent Kevin Cork is monitoring the latest developments from the North Lawn. Good evening, Kevin.
Brett, good evening to you. Very interesting to watch this White House try to walk us through the steps that has gotten us to this point, which is, might this White House be willing to do something against North Korea the way they sort of took action against Syria just this past week?
So I want to thank everybody.
Though the president spent the morning at the White House today talking about domestic policy issues like taxes and infrastructure with U.S. business leaders, his focus remained abroad, tending to the growing threat in the Pacific posed by Pyongyang. The president tweeting early this morning, North Korea is looking for trouble. If China decides to help, that would be great. If not, we will solve the problem without them. USA. That proclamation, a stark reminder of the president's willingness to go it alone and punish rogue states, just as he did in Syria following the gas attack on civilians there. In response, Pyongyang threatened nuclear war. North Korea's official newspaper writing, "Our revolutionary strong army is keenly watching every move by enemy elements with our nuclear site focused on the U.S. invasionary bases, not only in South Korea and the Pacific Operation Theater, but also in the U.S. mainland." Reaction in the North Korean capital was predictably indignant.
I think that the U.S. has no reason to complain about what our military does for self-defense. I think that the U.S. should stop its double standards.
At the White House, there was skepticism about the communist nation's nuclear capability, but no doubt about the president's resolve.
The last thing we want to see is a nuclear North Korea that threatens the coast of the United States, or for that matter, any other country and any other set of human beings. So we need stability in that region, and I think he has put them clearly on notice.
Lost in all the rhetoric, the broader White House message, which was very likely aimed about 500 miles to the west, at Beijing. Because as much as the Syrian airstrike pressed Moscow to rein in its partners in Damascus, the president's calculus on North Korea puts additional pressure on China to corral Kim Jong-Un once and for all. A strategy plainly visible in the president's tweet when he wrote this morning, "I explained to the president of China that a trade deal with the U.S. will be far better for them if they solve the North Korean problem." That link between security and economics is a well-tried stick and carrot technique that, if successful, could break a decades-long stalemate with the North and provide a pathway to peace in an increasingly volatile region. Simply speaking, Brett, the focus here at the White House is if you want a different outcome as it relates to North Korea and their behavior, you're going to have to come up with a different input. And it would appear, at least at this point, that the White House is prepared to do just that.
A U-2 spy plane taxis toward takeoff as dawn breaks over the Korean peninsula this morning. Its pilot fitted in a NASA-like pressure suit to withstand the 8-hour-long mission at soaring altitudes that will take him near the edge of space. With North Korea's unsettling ambitions and rhetoric rising, demand for these intelligence missions is high.
It's a constant tempo. We're very busy all the time. In the last 10 years, we've been the busiest we've ever been in this airplane.
The distance from Osan Air Base to North Korea is about equal to that from Baltimore to Washington, less than 50 miles. The base's slogan, "Ready to fight tonight," because it could happen that quickly.
Everybody on the installation has to know very quickly where they need to go, where they need to have their gear, but most importantly, what role that they do in a warfighting environment.
Patriot missile batteries defend the base from North Korean ballistic missiles. Preparations for chemical attacks are constant. Air crews hone their combat readiness.
We've been granted rare access to the Air Operations Center deep underground, the place where North Korean missile launches are first detected. This facility is so critical, war planners say it is the #1 target of the North if hostilities break out.
Thus, what we're allowed to show you is highly restricted. Suffice to say, layers of sensors give these American and South Korean operators a very detailed view of threats that they'll have minutes to react to.
When you see a missile launch from the north, you have to know whether it's coming here or Seoul or going harmlessly to see it pretty quickly.
We do. Time of flight is pretty short, but we have great capabilities all throughout this peninsula that are ready to respond.
The American commanders here say their prime mission remains deterrence, but they're ready to act if necessary.
If North Korea launched a rocket, and if we did not know whether it was a satellite or a warhead on top, we, the United States, would likely try to shoot it down. In response, North Korea will try a number of things, in part by sending artillery fire into South Korea. And right away, you have a major conventional war on our hands.
While the posture of the 28,000-plus American military personnel has not outwardly changed, the level of tension certainly has.
I've never seen greater concern from a regional perspective of the threat that is being posed by North Korea.
I'm looking at his wingtips.
Back at Osan, racing at nearly 100 miles an hour inside a chase car that monitors the ungainly U-2's takeoff, we can only guess at the spy plane's destination in search of answers about a secretive and unpredictable adversary.
The U.S. Air Force has contingency plans in the event of hostilities. They would bring in other squadrons, other units from different bases around the Pacific.
North Korea's state-run new media said it has successfully tested a newly developed high-thrust missile engine from its northwest facility, where the country has been launching rockets to put satellites into orbit. The high-thrust engine is a breakthrough accomplishment by North Korea in its effort to test-launch its long-range intercontinental ballistic missile, which could reach any point on Earth. However, North Korea has never flight-tested any intercontinental ballistic missile. The Washington-based think tank 38 North said last week satellite imagery indicated activity at the site's vertical engine stand, possibly in preparation for a rocket engine test. North Korea had installed the environmental shelter in late 2015 to conceal detection of test preparations. During his first trip to Asia as Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson strongly warned North Korea and threatened to use all options available to deal with it, including military preemptive strike. He said 20 years of diplomacy has failed and a new approach is needed.
The policy of strategic patience has ended. We're exploring a new range of diplomatic, security, and economic measures. All options are on the table. North Korea must understand that the only path to a secure, economically prosperous future is to abandon its development of nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, and other weapons of mass destruction.
Hey guys, Dabu7. With everything going on with North Korea, I just wanted to point out a few things here real quick. For those that do not remember, I put out a video February 2016 talking about North Korea launching this rogue satellite that they dubbed the Shining Star that was going in the opposite direction of most satellites around the planet. The U.S. military was watching it, saying it was going to start tumbling and fall out of the sky. Since then, they haven't said much, and it's still there. So I just wanted to point it out and let it be known that it is still there. It never did just fall out of the sky. After going and looking and following the link from that video that I put out on it, sure enough, they're still tracking it, KMS-4, and it's making passes over the United States. As you can see here, it looks like New England is what it's going to pass over next time it comes around, and then right over the middle of the United States. And it makes several passes. You can come here and look at the 10-day predictions from your location. And what's interesting about this is this, like the ISS, if you track it over here at this site, from your location, it will tell you when it's going to fly by. And on a clear night, you can look up and you can see this thing going across the sky. So I'm not so sure about this one or how big it is or how much light it's reflecting, but others, like the ISS, you can see when it goes by. We've timed it out before, went out and looked up and witnessed it going right overhead. So this thing is making its passes over the U.S. It's going to continue to do this. The truth of the matter is no one knows what's aboard it. Period. And the one thing that's always loomed in my mind, because this thing flew right over the Super Bowl area during one of the last Super Bowls, was, you know, what if they do have like an EMP type of something on this? You know, going over the United States. It just blows my mind that with everything going on with North Korea, this thing's still allowed to float over our country constantly. And they've done nothing about it. You know, it's not like they can, this thing's way up there in space. So it's not like it's in our atmosphere down here where some, you know, and they'd be sniffing for nuclear material or something like that. What if it's not even like that, is the thing. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. But with North Korea and everything going on with them threatening to test all this stuff and it getting really tense, I just wanted folks to know that this satellite is floating around out there. You know, for all we know, push of a button, it could activate something. It doesn't have to be the United States. It could be anywhere. Interesting, nonetheless, that it's still there. To me, anyway. And with everything else going on, just wanted to make sure folks know